He shoots straight, no question about it. And that, of course, has nothing to do with the sporting clays that he takes aim at nowadays. Willy T. Ribbs grew up with an eye on racing from Atlantics to Trans Am in the early 80s, a few NASCAR rides in 1986, but made a massive splash in 1991 when he became the first African American to qualify for the Indianapolis 500. Willy T. Ribbs joins us. Will, has it really been 30 years, Willie? Wow.
Well, first of all, Dave, what's going on, player? Yes, it
Yes,
has
sir.
been 30 years. And it went fast. It just all flows by with and you ask yourself, where did it go? I still remember a lot of it like it was yesterday.
Well, there's that iconic moment. Let me back up here. First of all, you had support in many different forms, right? The great Don King, Bill Cosby, but again, it all came together in 1991. What was the difference that year for you?
Well, the difference was I had just enough to be in the show. I didn't have a huge budget. It was all Bill Cosby's money. He financed the whole thing. He didn't spend what it would take to win the race, but he spent enough to get in the show. And that I'll never forget because no one else did it. He stepped up to the plate and he put and put me in the race and in the show. But with the little resources we had, it was Tim Wardrop, his engineering skills. It was John Waters, Buddy Lindblom, Laurie Garish. Those guys were so good. When Derek Walker was the director, he owned it.
Yeah.
But he put them, the few that we had were just brilliant guys. And what little resources we had, we climbed the mountaintop.
You had that Buick power, of course, and then things didn't exactly go well. I mean, it was a roll of the dice there on that final moment to qualifying, right?
Dice. If I was Las Vegas odds, it would be in 100 to 1. We had a lot of engine malfunctions, and all stemmed from a batch of bad, weak rod bolts, and we were breaking them. And it didn't take long to break them. We were breaking them 10 to 15, 20 laps. So the final day, we got a good engine from Buick, and it went the distance.
There's that iconic moment after you qualified, coming down pit road. You're practically already out of the car celebrating. Looking back at that, what did that moment, how did it define you? How did it change your life?
Well, once I had crossed the finish line and I had come around and I was doing my cool down lap, it was 5:45. The show was over in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Qualifying for the 1991 Indy 500 was over. It was Sunday, 5:45. So I was coming down pit lane, and a lot of the teams and mechanics came out and high-fived me. And I had to get out of the cockpit so I could get my arm out far enough to slap their hands because I didn't want to hit anybody, right? And when I got down to the box, I saw this. It was like the Red Sea parting. There was a whole bunch of people, and I saw this opening, and there came Mary Holman George, and she had security around her and support, and the crowd of people were there and just opened up. I didn't even have my helmet off, and she was there at the car. No other experience like that from any team owner or team manager, or track owner. That I never had that experience before.
Whether it was Mary or Tony, George, you received really tremendous support from the Holman George family, did you not?
I did. It was just the best. I mean, she made it clear that, and my whole family just wasn't me. She made the experience for me being at Indy in 91 a wonderful experience. I don't know if she put the word out, but everything was just wonderful. The whole Holman family, and how they engaged my family was just awesome. A great experience.
47, I think that's right. 47 IndyCar starts all told. Best finish was sixth at Denver that same year, 1991. What do you remember from that race?
Well, I didn't. I think we were running a year-old car every year except for, I think my final year was always in a year-old car. And I remember we were competitive, and I think, well, I bring it back to Tim Wardrop. I mean, he was that good an engineer, and he always gave you confidence. He gave you confidence each time you rolled down the pit lane. Whatever changes he made, you were confident that they were going to be good changes. And despite being one of the mid-pack teams, I think we had a good race, and we were competitive.
It's called Where Are They Now? But I feel like this is more like, what are you not doing now? Because you've got a lot going on right now, Willie. Last year, Netflix, of course, released the documentary Uppity. You're wearing the hat for us. It's a documentary, does not hold back. It's a deep dive into the culture at the time. How happy are you with that finished product?
Well, when we first started putting film in the can, and it was 2.5 years, I mean, we were all over the world. I mean, we were in Albuquerque, New Mexico with Uncle Bobby Unser and Hal Jr. We were in London in Bernie Ecclestone's office. And the narrative, how, and I was prepared to be disappointed when Adam Carolla, the producer, and Nate Adams took me into the screening room in LA for the final, after the final cut, final edit. I was shocked. When we came out, my wife was in tears, and it was just well done. But after the premiere, and we premiered last year, February the 5th, the response from Sean Penn, the response from Jimmy Kimmel, Jay Leno, the athletes, not in racing, but from other sports, and the worldwide response was overwhelming. But the final was 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were in the top 10 2020 Netflix of the year. I mean, they listed the top 20, and we were 8th. And Michael Jordan, that I couldn't believe it. He beat me by 1. Michael Jordan, I think it was The Last Dance or Last Kiss, that film they did.
The Last Dance, yeah.
Yeah. He beat me. He was 7th, and I thought, oh, and I thought, dang it, he didn't win, but he still beat me by 1. And but overall, and Formula One just rated it number 2 of the top 10 films. That came from F1. Yeah. I didn't even race in F1. Senna was 1st, and I was 2nd. Michael Schumacher was 3rd.
Well, like I mentioned, it's a deep dive, and it's as honest a racing film as I think there's ever been made. You got to be incredibly proud of this. I mean, is there anything that was left on the editing room floor? Any stories out there?
They edited for 1 year.
Wow.
For 1 year. And there was stuff that was coming in that they had to put in. There was film that statements from individuals that they hadn't put in the narrative, right? And they kept making adjustments. And Anthony, who did the editing, Anthony V, he just kept changing and making adjustments, and everything flowed. The narrative, the resistance that I got, the lack of support that I got, despite the success that I had at the lower level, there was a reason why, and the narratives explained the obstacles, but it was the good, the bad, and the ugly, Dave. There was so many good people in my career that got me to a level that really I shouldn't have gotten. I'm starting with Jim Truman, and then Paul Newman, and then Dan Gurney, and then Bill Cosby. And then having the mentorship from Muhammad Ali. It was a team. It wasn't me only. It was a team.
Did you ever fear at all that it might be too honest? It might ruffle some feathers?
Or
you didn't care?
Uppity. I didn't. I was not worried about anyone's feelings because they weren't worried about mine. You know, the people who had the heart, they were proud, and that's what they wanted to hear.
The good news is there are other projects in the works really coming out of this. Can you get into some of that? The spinoff from the film and the reaction. I signed with Showtime about 3 months ago. The producer of the show Billions on Showtime, Brian Koppelman, saw the film, and he went to Showtime and said, Billions is going to run its course after 5 years, and I've got a new project. And they said, what? Willy T. Ribs. So we're signed to do 4 years, 10 episodes a year. It's going to be fiction, nonfiction. There's going to be fight scenes like what happened in my career, bar fights, sex scenes. It's going to be all there. And so that's what's happening. I also signed to do the SRX, the new Superstar series this year, with Tony Stewart,
yeah. and Helio and Kanan and Tracy and Bobby Labonte and Mark Webber from Formula One, and that's going to be a hell of a show starting June 12th.
That'd be cool. It's been over a year now since Roger Penske took over the Speedway and IndyCar. You two go back, if I'm not mistaken, back to the 60s, Willie, is that right?
I first met Roger at Riverside. I think it was 1963 or 64. That's where I first met Roger, and I was 7 or 8 years old. And I met him then because my dad was racing then. And I saw RP when he was young and skinny. And I've been asked, as long as you've known Roger, what's been the biggest surprise? His business success is legendary. I said, the biggest surprise is how well Roger Penske could dance.
What?
It was a Marlboro party, 1990 in New York, Manhattan. And it was it was Friday night or Thursday night before the Meadowlands race. And he went up on the dance floor, and my cousin, Big Donnie and I were watching him as he went up on the dance floor. And he got up there and he started dancing. He was dancing with, I think, Susan Bradshaw from Marlboro.
PR, yeah.
Yes. And he was up on stage and he looked over and he saw me and Donnie watching him. He went and did the moonwalk. I mean, Michael Jackson would have been stunned. I mean, Roger went back up on the balls of his feet and rolled back doing the moonwalk. I nearly fell over. I was stunned. And I thought, never. He could do Soul Train. I couldn't make Soul Train. That's how good a dancer Roger was. Or is.
Just when you thought you've heard all the Roger Penske stories, Willy T, ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
The
I not heard that
moonwalk.
one. The moonwalk.
The moonwalk. And then he was proud of it because he got off when the jam was over. He got off stage and he walked up to me and Donnie says, "I can bust a move, can I?" I said, "Yeah, Raj." I was speechless.
Last thing, one of the initiatives started in 2020. You go back to Roger, was the race for equality and change here at the Speedway and IndyCar as well. And since then, Rod Reed, who I know you know, has started a team called Force Indy. It's an African-American led team in USF 2000. Beth Peretta has launched Peretta Autosport with diversity in mind. Your thoughts, Willy T, on maybe the changing landscape in racing?
It's got to happen, Dave. Auto racing has maxed as far as its popularity and as far as ticket sales and as far as TV numbers. It's got to broaden its base, or the sport advertisers are going to continue to nickel and dime it, or actually go away. It's got to broaden its base, and that's the last frontier. And for there to be a team led by Reed and Peretta, I think is brilliant for the sport. They have to have the funding. That's the bottom line. Corporate America enjoys billions and billions of dollars from African Americans and women. Billions. They wouldn't be in business without them. So they have got to step up to the plate and make it happen. RP, Roger is said, okay, here's the platform. Here's the stage, but it's going to take more than what Roger's doing. Everyone's got to step up and make it happen, and successfully make it happen, and keep developing it.
Great point. Great point. Sports shooting. I know you've kind of cut back. Theo, your son's doing well though, right?
Theo's one of the best in the world, and I'm really proud. You know, I could have directed him into auto racing, but he started. My hobby was shooting, and once I started competing, he wanted to compete, and we were in California. Well, I knew he couldn't be a world-class shooter in California, so we moved to Texas, and we have a ranch at with his own machines on it to train, and he's shooting all over the world, Dave. I mean, he's in Dubai, he's in England, he's in Italy, he's in Mexico, he's in Cyprus. So he's won the national championship K-Cup event. He won when he started. He was junior national champion, and so he's a pro. He teaches athletes like NFL players and executives. So I've already RP has already got a slot. When he's ready, Theo's going to take him out shooting and get him up to speed.
Love talking to you, man. I love those trophies, by the way, behind you.
Yeah, they've it's been with the pictures and trophies. It's been a career that you can look on the wall and you can look around you and say, all those, you can put your life and your life's timeline in order. And the sport, it's been hard for me, but it's also been great for me as well.
Well, that's the beauty of motorsports. I mean, there are so many stories woven into the fabric of this sport. I can't imagine it without your story being a part of it. So keep being you, Willie.
You saw a lot of it.
Thanks for doing this, my friend. Thank you.
Any day, Dave.